Hello friends, hope you all are doing good. So today the video is regarding all about Indian Air Force, and before this I have already uploaded similar video related to Indian Army where I have covered data in crisp way, and if you want to watch that video, the link is available in the I button. So similarly I am going to cover this video also in crisp way. So again, without wasting any time, let us start. So let us first discuss the role of our Indian Armed Forces. So the main role of our Indian Armed Forces is to maintain territorial integrity, defend our country against foreign aggression and insurgency, then to provide assistance to civil community during emergencies, for example during natural or man-made disaster, and finally to provide troops for the United Nations peacekeeping missions. And the primary role of the Indian Air Force is to secure India's airspace and to conduct aerial warfare during the armed conflict. And talking about the strength of the Indian Air Force is the fourth largest air force in the world with approximate 1.4 lakhs active personnel and more than 2,100 aircrafts, and it stands ahead of the Air Force of UK and France. And talking about the history of Indian Air Force, it was officially established on 8th of October 1932 as an auxiliary air force of the British Empire. Then in 1945, the prefix Royal was added in the recognition of its valiant service during the World War II. And even after independence, the prefix Royal was kept. But it was only in 1950, when India became a republic, the prefix Royal was removed. And the motto of Indian Air Force is touch the sky with glory. And every year, 8th of October is celebrated as Air Force Day, because on that day in 1932, it was officially raised as the supporting force of the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom. And the President of India is the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces, and the Air Force head is known as the Chief of the Air Staff, who is a 4-star general. Until date, only one officer is conferred in the rank of Marshal of the Indian Air Force, that is Marshal of the Air Force Arjun Singh. So this rank, Marshal of the Air Force, is equivalent to Field Marshal rank in the Indian Army, which is a 5-star general rank, which is basically a ceremonial position. And it was on 25th of January 2002 when Marshal of the Air Force Arjun Singh was given this rank in the recognition of its most valuable services to the Air Force and the nation. Then the flying officer Nirmal Jeet Singh Sekho is the only member from the Indian Air Force to be honored with Paramveer Chakra, and he was awarded Paramveer Chakra in the recognition of its bravery during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971 when he defended Srinagar Air Base against the Pakistani Air Force raid. Last year, another position was created known as the position of CDS, which stands for Chief of Defence Staff. CDS is also a 4-star general officer who is the most senior serving officer of the armed forces. CDS is a tri-service chief, and it is basically a single point contact for advice on all the military matters by the government. Actually, the need to create CDS was felt after the Kargil War, but it was finally on 15th of August 2019 when PM Modi announced that the position of CDS will be created soon. So it was finally on 1st of January 2020 when General Bipin Rawat, he took over as the first Chief of Defence Staff of the Indian Armed Forces. CDS is also in charge of the Tri-Services Command, which is at Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and the Strategic Forces Command of the nuclear weapons, and along with the upcoming Cyber as well as the Space Command. And presently, the Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Armed Forces is President Ramnath Kovind. Chief of the Defence Staff, that is CDS, is General Bipin Rawat, and Chief of the Air Staff, that is the Air Force Head, is the Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Vadoria, and the Vice Chief of the Air Staff is Air Marshal Harjeet Singh Arora. So let us now discuss the structure of the Indian Air Force. So Indian Air Force is divided into total 7 commands, 5 operational commands and 2 functional commands. And the purpose of the operational command is to conduct military operations using aircraft within its area of responsibility, whereas the role of the functional command is to maintain combat readiness. And each of this command is headed by an air officer in the rank of Air Marshal. And the 5 operational command of the Air Force are, first is the Central Air Command at Prayagraj, then Eastern Air Command at Shillong, then Southern Air Command at Tiruvananthapuram, then Southern Western Air Command at Gandhinagar, then Western Air Command at New Delhi, and 2 functional commands include the Training Command at Bangalore and the Maintenance Command at Nagpur. And apart from this, there are 2 joint commands also known as Tri-Services Command, whose head can be belong to any of the three services. And these are the Strategic Forces Command, which controls the nuclear resources of the country, then the Andaman and Nicobar Command. And each command is headed by an air officer in the rank of Air Marshal, which is equivalent to the Lieutenant General rank in the Army. And within each operational command, there are a number of air groups, which is commanded by an air officer in the rank of Air Vice Marshal, which is equivalent to Major General rank in the Army. And further, each air group consists of several bases or stations, which are commanded by Air Commodore, which is equivalent to Army Brigadier, or Group Captain, which is equivalent to Colonel in the Army. Then there are wings in the Air Force, and a wing is equivalent to Army unit, which consists of 2 to 3 squadrons and helicopter units, along with the forward base supporting units. And a wing is commanded by a Group Captain. Then a flying squadron is a sub-unit of an Air Force station, which carries out the primary task of the Air Force. And all the fighter squadrons are headed by an officer with the rank of Wing Commander. However, some transport squadrons and helicopter units are headed by a commanding officer with the rank of Group Captain also, which is equivalent to the Colonel in the Army. Then there is a flight. So flight is basically a subdivision of the squadron, and it is commanded by squadron leader, which is equivalent to Major rank in the Army. And Indian Air Force is divided into several service branches for day-to-day operations. So these are, first is the flying branch, which is responsible for flying fighter and transport aircraft and helicopters for operationals and peacetime missions. Then the next is technical branch, which is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the aircraft and other equipment. Then there is third, which is known as ground branch, which is responsible for providing the requisite administrative and logistic backup to other two branches. And along with it, it is also responsible for the pay and allowances and education and medical requirements of the Indian Air Force. So let us now discuss the operational capability of the Indian Air Force. So the first category is of fighter aircraft. So the first is Sukhoi aircraft, which is Russian-based, and this is Indian Air Force primary air superiority aircraft with the additional capability for conducting air-to-ground strike missions. Then we have Tejas LCA, that is light combat aircraft, which is indigenously developed, which is a single-seater, single-jet and multi-role fighter jet, which is designed by HAL and ADA. Then we have MiG-29, also known as BAS. So it is a dedicated air superiority fighter and constitute second line of defense after Sukhoi. Then we have French-based Mirage 2000, which is also known as Vajra, which is a single-seat air defense and multi-role fighter jet of French origin, which played a major role in Balakot strikes that was conducted after Pulwama attack. Then we have MiG-21 Bison of Russian region, which is the backbone of the Indian Air Force from last many decades, followed by MiG-27 again of Russian origin, which have maximum speed of 1700 km per hour. Then there is Jaguar, which is a single-seater deep penetration strike aircraft of Anglo-French origin, and these Jaguars have also operated in the naval strike. Then finally, we have the Rafale aircraft, which recently we have acquired from France, which is a multi-role fighter aircraft, which is equipped with wide range of weapons, and it is capable of performing air supremacy, aerial reconnaissance, ground support, in-depth strike, anti-ship strike, and nuclear deterrence missions. And the next category is of transport aircrafts. The first is the strategic transport aircrafts, which include C-17 Globemaster III and IL-76 Gajraj. Then we have tactical transport aircraft, which includes C-130J Super Hercules, AN-32, and Hawker Siddeley HS-748. Then in the utility transport aircraft, there is Dornier, and in the VIP transport aircraft, there is Embraer. The main role is the convenience of the VIPs and VVIPs to the destinations within India and abroad. Then there is American-based Boeing 737. Then in the form of trainer aircrafts, we have HAL HJT-16 Kiran, then British origin Hawk, followed by Pilatus P-7 turbo trainer, and Pipistrel Virus, which is a light aircraft manufactured in Slovenia, and it is sold as an ultralight sport aircraft globally. Then talking about the helicopters held with the Indian Air Force, in terms of attack helicopter, we have Mi-25 and HAL Rudra, which is the armed version of HAL Dhruv, followed by HAL LCH, which is light combat aircraft, which is a multi-role combat helicopter developed in India by HAL for the use of Indian Air Force and as well as the Army. Then in the utility helicopters, we have Dhruv, followed by Chetak and Cheetah, And in transport helicopters, we have Mi-26 and Mi-17 V5. And the US-based Chinook helicopter, which we have recently acquired from USA, which is an advanced multi-mission helicopter that can deliver payloads to high altitude, especially for operations in high Himalayas. Then the missile systems held with the Indian Air Force include the Akash missile system, Astra missile, Prithvi, and BrahMos missile. And furthermore, there are certain elements which are referred as the force multipliers of the Air Force. The first is the Garud Commando Force, which is the special force of the Indian Air Force, which was established in September 2019, and it consists of approximate 1,500 personnel. And during hostilities, they undertake combat search and rescue operations like the Para-Special Forces of the Indian Army. And during wartime, they undertake offensive role, including raids on the enemy air bases. Then we have UAV and drones, and currently Indian Air Force operates the Israeli-based Searcher 2 and Heron UAV for the reconnaissance and surveillance purposes. And then we have airborne early warning and control system. Currently, Indian Air Force operates the Israeli ERW-2090 Falcon, and total of 3 such systems are already in service and 2 more are ordered. Then there is air refueling, and the Indian Air Force refers to this aircraft as MARS, that is Mid-Air Refueling System, and currently 7 such systems are held with the Indian Air Force. Let us now discuss the role of Indian Air Force in various operations. So during World War II, Indian Air Force played an instrumental role in preventing the advance of Japanese troops in the Burma, and it was mainly involved in strike, close air support, aerial reconnaissance, bomber escort, and pathfinding missions. And because of the valiant service shown by the Indian Air Force in World War II, British Empire granted the prefix Royal to the Indian Air Force, and day after the instrument of accession was signed, the Royal Indian Air Force was called upon to transport troops into the war zone. But in the 1962 Indo-China War, we were not able to effectively use the Indian Air Force against the Chinese forces, and that resulted in India losing a significant amount of advantage to the Chinese. That is, we lost a part of territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which is now Oxychin, which is held with the China. Then in 1965 India-Pakistan War, Indian Air Force played a major role. It not only provided close support to the Indian Army, but also carried out independent raid against Pakistan air bases, and these bases were situated deep inside the Pakistan territory. Then in the 1971 India-Pakistan War, within the first 2 weeks, Indian Air Force carried out almost 12,000 sorties over East Pakistan and also provided close support to the advancing Indian Army as well as Indian Navy in its operation against the Pakistan Navy and Maritime Security Agency in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Then on the Western Front, the Indian Air Force destroyed more than 20 Pakistani tanks and supply chain during the Battle of Longewala, on which the movie Border is based. Then again in 1984, when Operation Meghdut was launched by Indian Army, it played a very important role by supporting Indian Army. For example, with the help of its helicopter, it airlifted hundreds of Indian troops to the Siachen Glacier. Then in 1987, during Operation Pavan in Sri Lanka, Indian Air Force supported the Indian peacekeeping forces in the northern and the eastern Sri Lanka in Operation Pavan, where about 70,000 sorties were flown by the Indian Air Force transport and helicopter force in support of nearly 1 lakh troops. Then in Kargil War, Indian Air Force provided close support to the Indian Army, and Indian Air Force strike was codenamed Operation Safed Sagar. First strikes were launched on 26 May, when the Indian Air Force struck infiltrators' position with fighter aircraft and helicopter gunships. Then the Indian Air Force also deployed its radars and the MiG-29 fighters in vast numbers to keep an eye on the Pakistan military movements across the border. Then in February 2019, in the response to Pulwama attack, Indian Air Force carried out the famous air strikes known as the Balakot air strikes, when a group of 12 Mirage aircrafts entered Pakistan, where they carried out strikes on the Jaish-e-Mohammed bases. So let us now talk about the modernization of the Indian Air Force. So we all are aware that in the current scenario, we are facing the threat of two-front war from China and Pakistan. And in order to tackle such a situation, we need to modernize our armed forces. But sadly, we are not spending adequately on our defense. For example, last year, our defense budget was only 2.1% of the GDP as compared to China and Pakistan, where they are spending between 3 to 3.5% on their defense. So until we modernize our armed forces, we will not be able to tackle two-front war. So therefore, there is a dire need to modernize our armed forces. And currently, we are down to only 31 squadrons as compared to the required strength of 45 squadrons. So the plans of the Air Force include the upgradation of the MiG-29 with air-to-air missiles and the upgraded MiG civil feature with increased fuel capacity. Then 50 Sukhoi aircrafts are being planned to be upgraded with the capability of carrying the BrahMos cruise missile. Then Mirage 2000, which is a French-based fighter craft, is also upgraded to the next generation fighter level. Then the indigenously developed light combat aircraft Tejas has been officially inducted into the Indian Air Force after achieving the final operation clearance, and upgradation of the same with state-of-art weaponry and communication system is already underway. So now moving to the last part of the video, let us now talk about the major exercises of the Indian Air Force. So I will not discuss these in detail, but only I have mentioned the names. So the major exercises of the Indian Air Force are COP India, Syndex, Garud, Gagan Shakti, Indradhanush, Red Flag, Exercise Desert Eagle, Eastern Bridge, Iron Fist, Siam Bharat, Blue Flag, Abhyendra, and Shinyu Maitri. So these are the major exercises of the Indian Air Force. So this is all about today's video, and I hope this information will be beneficial for you. And I've tried to keep this video as short as possible, and similar video related to Indian Navy is coming soon. So till then, keep learning, keep supporting, and keep watching. So best of luck for your upcoming SSB. Thank you, and God bless you.